Dude, tell me a little bit about being a football player. I actually researched you a little bit yesterday.
Yeah. So I I was a quarterback in college. I went to Westchester University first, redshirted there, and then I transferred to Delaware Valley University here in Pennsylvania. Division III program, wasn't like some big time college.
Yeah.
Uh, did very well. Started as a freshman, started all 4 years, and became an All American there. Broke
Did you
records.
really?
Um, yeah. I'm hoping I get into our Hall of Fame next year. That's when my ballot is up for next year to get into the College Hall of Fame, for my college at least. And then after that, I had a couple workouts with the Eagles, the Bills, the Colts, and then ended up. Oh, actually, at the Eagles workout for Philly, Chip Kelly was the head coach at the time.
Oh, really?
Ryan Day, yeah, Ryan Day was the offensive coordinator, who's the head coach now of Ohio State. Pat Shermer was the offensive coordinator at the time. Yeah, Ryan Day was the quarterback coach. Pat Shermer was the offensive coordinator, and I had a great workout. Killed it. My arm looked great. I'm only 5'10". Okay,
Mhm.
so after the workout, Chip Kelly
Flutie,
comes up.
though. Flutie was that was his height.
Yeah, after the workout, Chip Kelly comes up to me and he says, "Listen, you had a great workout." Him, Pat Shermer, and Ryan Day were all meeting, and they said, "Listen, um, you're too short for us, but I'm going to make a phone call for you." 2 days later, I'm on a plane to Canada for the British Columbia Lions. Chip Kelly kept his word. He made a phone call for me to the head coach at the time was Jeff Tedford, who was Aaron Rodgers' college quarterback or college coach at University of Cal. Um, so yeah, I got signed by British Columbia Lions, and then after that, I got released and got signed by the Calgary Stampeders.
Oh,
Got
yeah,
released.
they've won
And then
it's the Grey Cup, right? They've won that,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And then after Calgary, I got signed by an arena team in Spokane, Washington, called the Spokane Empire,
Uh-huh.
which was awesome. I mean, that was a great. I found a great love because I've only been on the East Coast my whole life, and going out to the Pacific Northwest, David, was awesome. It was great out there. I loved it, man. The scenery, the people, especially coming from the East Coast in a big city like Philadelphia. Everybody moves a little slower than you out there, so it just
Right.
felt a little
That's how it
different
was
being
when I
out
came to Tennessee. They're like, "Boy, you talk awful fast, being from Boston."
Yeah, so but yeah, that's the football story, man. And
Oh,
after I got done playing, I jumped right into what I wanted to do, which is sales. So I've been in various sales jobs with negotiation and stuff like that, and I've found my sweet spot here with Meridian as a operating as a wholesaler.
so one thing that we always hear as business owners is, if you want to hire like great people, you want to hire athletes or people that were in the military. What do you think you kind of the lessons that you learned over all of the years, because you don't get to that level of playing, I mean, you started that probably when you were super young. What do you think you learned that helped you become successful in sales and running your own business?
Well, I mean, of course, the first thing is the hard work aspect of it. You know, acquisitions is basically a sport. You're competing, like you said, with other wholesalers out there, or even realtors. There's realtors calling some of these same
Sure.
leads. So it's really a sport, and it's a loss and win game where every time I get a deal, I am jumping through the roof. I'm super excited, but I know that's just one play. I got to go back out there on the field and do it all over again
Right.
and keep the process of repeating it. And it's also a mindset thing where you have to be competitive, you have to be aggressive, you have to have a win attitude, and you have to be able to withstand the tough times of wholesale. Especially like I mentioned, I had 8 deals that were at the finish line and didn't close. Was I going to pack it up and quit the business? No, I kept at it, and now I'm getting ready to close a bunch of deals this month. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. I love that. So, kind of to wrap it up, lots of people are going to watch this and be inspired by your story and everything that you're doing. Like, what is the advice that you've got for the people who are newer, right? Who maybe are facing that obstacle and maybe that first
yeah,
deal, didn't close because for whatever reason.
yeah. Well, I guess a couple things. I mean, one, what I wish I knew before I even got in, or in the beginning when I got in. Like, if I can go back and uh, talk to myself maybe a year or two ago, I would say don't join a company. Do your I mean, look, you can join a company that does wholesale real estate just to get the inside knowledge of the inner workings and how it all works. And then after you close a deal or two, go on your own to start your own operation. Because one, and I tell this I actually have a job posting out there right now that I'm trying to get an acquisitions manager. And I tell people when they call me and say, listen, you're going to get 20% of the deal, but this isn't going to be a forever job for you. I want you to be with me for like 6 to 8 months. And then after you close a couple of deals, you go start your own company. Because you're going to end up resenting me, just like how I resented my former company. Of like, look, you guys are keeping 80% of the deal. You can go out and find your own deal and keep majority of the money if you find a JV partner to do it with. And then avoiding some of the big mistakes. Obviously, you have to make mistakes to learn from them, especially in wholesale, whether it's locking up deals too high or not asking the right questions to the seller, or asking the right questions to the seller on the phone to get them to sign on the phone. So there are mistakes that you just learn from naturally by doing it. And I guarantee you, David, if you make enough calls, you will get those mistakes out of you immediately. And that's actually one thing I wanted to bring up to you before we close it up here is there's so many inexperienced wholesalers out there that are ruining the market by locking up properties way too high. And then let's say I call said seller and they're like, oh yeah, X and XYZ told me they're going to give me $100,000 for the property when all the math says it should be at $70,000. And of course that guy's going to go disappear and ghost them, giving us a further bad name.
This is why we're getting regulation in our industry.
Yeah. So what do you think about that, about these inexperienced wholesalers out in the marketplace wrapping up deals too high or ghosting sellers or, just being inexperienced and not professional?
Yeah, I think that is, that's one of the reasons that we're getting regulated all over the place, because people are getting left high and dry. And, at the end of the day, this is a people business, right? And I think that because we're in this business and we're sort of in this bubble, right? You and me, and we're talking to people that do this all day long, that some people can get very cavalier about, oh, I'll just cancel it, I'll memo it, I'll do, all these things. And they forget that these are real people, right? These are real people that are losing sleep at night over this property. And, they are trusting us to solve that problem, right? So when we're giving them these prices that are stupid high, and there are people who teach this, right? We'll just go back later and get a reduction on every deal. Just lock it up, right? There are realtors that do that too. Every industry has shitheads. That's what's causing the problem. That's the markets that are too hot. That's what you're coming in after the fact trying to fix. And it gets very difficult because somebody's anchored them so high that now they have just bad expectations. And I would rather get less contracts, but just be honest with people. Hey, I get that you're looking for 82,000, but I can confidently get you 68 to 70 and get this thing done. That's the number where this happens at. For an investor, if you go to the big markets, right? The things that pop to the top of everybody's head, right? Dallas, Miami, Boston, New York, right? LA, right? Those are like they are hot markets. There's a lot of activity because, we always want to be thinking, where are buyers, right? I don't want to be locking up houses and contracts in a place where there's nobody to buy it. I know that seems like common sense, but you'd be amazed at the people who send us deals in the town of 5,000 people. So if we look at those are clearly the biggest markets with the most investor activity. However, we're in there and there's 1,000 wholesalers sending letters and text messages. Like the sellers there are just getting bombarded, right, all the time. So now not only are we competing with that, which part of me is fine, right? I'll put my fucking team up against anybody's, right? Because we do the basics, we make the calls, we do all the things. But, you've got nitwits out there who are promising too much and fucking over sellers. And now it just becomes mucky, right? And then you've got the kind of too cold, which are the small markets, right? It's a town of 15,000 people. You're 50 miles from any big metro. Who's going to rehab a house there? Because you have to think about your end buyer. Why would you buy this house from me, put $50,000 into it? Because who are you going to sell it to? It's a town of 15,000 people. Nobody's moving there. Same thing for landlords, right? Who am I going to rent this thing to? It's a town of 15,000 people. Nobody's moving in. Nobody's moving out. It's not a good investment. And then if it's land, Well, great. There's one deck contractor in the whole town, and nobody's
Yeah.
letting him build a spec house. So, so then we go, okay, well, what's in the middle, right? So I pulled a list of all of the counties in the United States, and I said, okay, let's look at it this way. I kind of wanted to do MSAs because that's an easier, a little bit easier, but it's very difficult to pull MSAs and then pull lists of buyers. So I think I did everything, every county over 150,000 up to 1.2 million. So I knocked out the big stuff, right? Like let's just set that aside because my daddy taught me to work smart, not hard, right? So I want to be in a place where there's enough activity, but I don't want to be too small. I knocked out all the small counties. So now I've got what's left, which was like 300 counties. And then we sat and we did I had my VA just go into PropStream and pull the exact same criteria, every single cash buyer for the last 6 months in every single county, every single one. Like it took him 2 days, and we created that sheet. And then I said, okay, now I want to look at the growth. What's the growth been over the last 5 years? Are people moving there, right? Because if you look at an investor, right, Chattanooga, for example, right? Since the day I moved here, people from outside were always investing here, but even the people here were like, oh, it's the end of the world, the market's bad. But outside people could see that this was a place that was growing for a lot of reasons, and they were investing here, and we've seen massive population growth over the last couple of years. So I do model a lot of things off of Chattanooga. So there's growth. And then, we pay for that highest level of investor lift for $72,000. So I went through and I did every single city and I pulled the people who are on investor lift who have done transactions here, right? Because I wanted to get a number. I needed a baseline. Then I pulled all of the buyers who said they wanted to buy in each one of those particular counties. Then we went and looked at rental rates. Are rents going up, right? Because investors want to buy a place where if it's a rental, right? Because I'm trying to aggregate as much information here as I can. So if rents are going up, well, that would be a place that investor wants to buy, right? They buy it for 50,000. I'm getting $500 in rent, but over time, historically, that rent's going up, right? Because that's the arbitrage there, right? That's that difference where over time, this is going to be a good investment for me, as opposed to a place like Jackson, Mississippi, which has a declining population, so rents are going down, right? So anyways, we took all this information. There was just a ton of different criteria. And I put it into the AI, a couple of different AIs, and I had it aggregated and weight things a little bit differently, and it ranked all of the markets. Then I went in and looked at, in general, and this is not a pitch for our thing, but just so you understand where it came from. One of the mistakes that I made early on when I was doing PPC is I went out and I was trying to like follow hedge funds back in the day. Because I'm like, oh, hedge funds buying property, they're smart. These are all Harvard, MBA, Yale guys, right? Like surely they're smarter than me. I don't need to recreate the wheel here. And what I realized is the goal after spending a bunch of fucking money the wrong way is I realized that their goal is not the same as my goal. And this is very important to really understand. Just because a hedge fund is buying houses in Buffalo, New York, does not mean it's a good wholesaler's market, right? And this is something I found that was very true in the northern markets. So you understand what rent multipliers are, right?
Yes.
100,000, it should rent for $1,000, 1% rule, very kind of common. And we use that on the retail side. However, up in the northern states, it's like a 2% rent multiplier, meaning they're buying for 50 and it's renting for $1,000. Well, that's really good if you're a cash flow investor, right? Because I can get better returns here than I can in Huntsville, right, Alabama. However, when you think that kind of through, right, when you look below the surface and you look at the bottom of the iceberg, well, that means if that's the going price for that property, then I have to go out there and I need to, if I want to make 20,000, I need to contract it at 20 or 30.
Yeah.
And that starts to get challenging, right? That starts to get really hard, which is why what you see is you do see a lot of transactions in Ohio. And this is what sets easy REI closings different apart from like REI print mail. They see somebody that's doing a lot of transactions there, but I can see what they're making. That's different, right? And we've done deals in those markets. So what happens is maybe I contracted at 40 or 45 and sell it for 50. Well, great, I made $5,000. Awesome. $5,000 is always a win, right? But it's the same amount of work to go to Huntsville or, Chattanooga. Or,
same amount of work smarter, not harder.
Right. So that was kind of the philosophy, and that's just the kind of stuff that we've learned after doing this for 17 years is, yeah, there are lots of places you can do deals. I'm not ever saying you can't do a deal in the 5,000 person town. We've done it, sure, right? That definitely happens. However, there are places where I can work smarter.
Yeah, yeah. Or basically just put in the same amount of work and get the same result, just with a higher assignment fee tacked onto it. So I definitely understand that.
So that's just the philosophy behind that. That's all.
Yeah, and then for PPC, so I've like I said, I've only been doing cold calling and SMS. I do some SMS, but mainly outbound marketing is what I'm doing. I've tried PPC. I did a couple iSpeed to lead, I guess, purchases. Yeah. And I spent maybe about $2,000, and man, I didn't close shit. And I'm a very good on the phone closer. I really do a good job of building rapport, getting the offer across, and getting people to sign on the phone with me. But I just couldn't. Well, again, I spent about $2,000, so let's say it was maybe 20 leads that I bought, but I didn't close any. And I was like, dude, this is not working out. Now, of course, I could have closed the 21st deal, but I didn't even wait to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely a numbers game. Even my buddy RJ Bates, like he's a big proponent of PPL. It definitely is going to take. It's probably going to take more leads than that. But ultimately, even if you're running PPC, like you're running ads directly to your own CRM, each lead may cost you $100 or $150, whatever it is. But it's no different. You may have to talk to 20 people. You know what I mean? But on leads 31 to 40, you may get 2 deals. So now you're 1 in 20, right? You don't know. It's literally 100% all of it is just a numbers game. Are you cold calling and texting yourself, or do you have somebody doing it for you?
Oh no, I use X Leads CRM, and they have it built in, AI chatbots and stuff like that. I have a dialer that I use, so yeah, it's all me. I'm looking to bring on some more people to the team here, so that way I can contact more people, get more offers out. Because again, I'm only one person, but I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I'm making about 300 calls a day, sending about 400 to 500 text messages a day.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Good for you. Yeah, it's what will happen and I definitely we'll jump in here. I want to get a little bit of your background. We'll chop all this stuff up too. This is good. That's why sometimes I just record conversations.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff's going to come up. And when I'm doing content too, I'm like, I don't ever know what to say. Like, I would much rather talk to people and have them ask questions, and then I'm like, oh, hey, there's this thing. It's really cool. Yeah. But once and here's the thing about, because you're going to go into like a scaling growth mode, and that's going to be a little bit different for you, because you and I, as the owner, right? Nobody cares more than us. Really, that's the truth, right? At the end of the day, no matter how good your people are, not one person will care more than you. So, and also we can have conversations with sellers, and we can be like, assignment, novation, wholesale, sub 2, whatever, right? Like we can do all that stuff on the fly. That doesn't happen when you have people on your team, right? So you don't want to overwhelm them with too many like exit strategies. The reason that we were so successful, we were wholesale. Like that was what we did. We didn't try to do all that. But as you get more people in, you'll need to have multiple markets, because you're going to go through data burn very quickly, right? Especially if you've got a cold calling team. Even if you have 2 or 3 cold callers burning up the phone, one, you want to make sure you're listening to their calls and tracking them, because I get cold calls all day long for my properties, and people it'll just be like silence, and they're just holding for 8 seconds so they can consider it a call, and then they hang up. And every time I'm like, man, somebody's getting fucked for money out there, just because they're doing a shitty job. But they're not going to be as attentive as you. But right, this is like Henry Ford in the production line. He's like, I would rather have 1% of 100 people's effort than 100% of my own, right? Because now that frees you up to do some other things. So there will be that shift. So you do want to monitor that and manage it, because that now your role changes from being maybe the operator to more like the manager, right? And making sure everybody's doing all their things. But yeah, you'll as you do that, and now it's not just you calling. Now you have a couple of people calling or texting. You will go through data like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. And, well, I guess the other thing you mentioned earlier, with the help of AI, though, you can kind of run with a lean team because of the birth of AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would never have 20 people. We had
So if you got back in the game today, you started an operation. How many guys would you have, or gals, would you have on your
I
team
almost
today?
always had women. They were way better, honestly.
Yeah.
They spanked the men every single time. Um, I would run it a little bit different if I was going to run my own business now. I would pick 3 to 4 markets, maybe 2 acquisitions people. I always like to have at least 2 because then you have competition, competition between people. Um, but yeah, I would pick a couple of markets, but I might, even go a little more niche. I would just focus on people who own their properties free and clear. 40% of the properties in the United States are owned without a mortgage. 40%. So it's been a very steady number for the last 10 years. So I would focus on those people. And that was something that I learned way back in the day is, even during the recession, 10, 11, 12, I was calling people and they couldn't always take my offer because they owed more. Now, had I been smarter, I would have substituted every damn deal ever and
Yeah.
properties instead of 100. But hindsight's 2020. But I was making people offers, 70,000, like, oh, I owe 100. I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. That's really too bad. But I remembered from being at a RIA meeting or a meetup or something that the speaker said 40% of properties were free and clear, and I'm like, David, what are you doing? Just market to the people who are fucking free and clear, and then you may not like my offer, but you could at least take it. And then that evolved into making multiple offers and buying with owner financing, which is how we built our portfolio. So, if I was going to go into it today, because I do think everybody, like, real wealth is in owning properties, right? Wholesaling is awesome, pays for trips. I've been around the world. It's awesome. It's great. But you want to be grabbing some properties in there somewhere. So I would only focus. Did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze on me, brother. All right, there you go. You're back.
Yeah, good. I would focus on free and clear in all of those markets. I would be in the markets with the most number of buyers. And then I would also probably set up a team and have that team only go after 2 to 10 units, duplexes, triplexes, quads, up to 10 units. And I would just, anywhere in the country, I would just go out and contract as many of those as I could. And any of them that I could turn into owner financing to bring into my own portfolio, that's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's part of, you kind of asked a little bit about the background of Meridian. So
yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, I've always been in sales, David. Always had, as some would say, the gift of gab. Was always able to talk to people. Now, again, with wholesaling and what we're doing, we're not really selling anything. You guys actually do the selling for me when I give you guys the deal to dispo. So that's the only selling going on. But the negotiation piece, breaking down, analyzing the deal, underwriting it, understanding why the homeowner needs to sell, not wants to sell. I don't want to talk to people that want to sell the property. Right. I joined some of your calls on Thursday, which we actually have a call today at 3, I believe, right? Underwriting call?
Tomorrow at 3.
Tomorrow? I thought today was Thursday, no?
Is today Thursday?
Oh, no, today's Wednesday.
Dude, I actually had to check. When you said that, I thought it might have been.
Yeah, so a lot of the people I listen to on the calls, it sounds like they're brand new. They're kind of just watching YouTube videos, which is okay to do that. But I actually had some training for the last 8 years of just negotiation training, getting somebody, understanding, asking a lot of questions, figuring out what their end goal is and try to create a win-win scenario so that way we both walk away, happy here.
And was that in real estate you're training, or where did you learn about that?
I mean, I've had different sales jobs, but I did do real estate for a while. I was a regional leasing consultant for a big REIT called Air Communities. They have a bunch of properties across America. And I was always just in face-to-face. I mean, my first job ever, I was, if you go to the mall, the guy at the kiosk with the cologne.
Dude, I love those guys because they're chatty and they'll talk to anybody and they don't, like, I've hired people who didn't want to, like, I told them this is a phone job and they would get on and didn't want to make calls. No, cell phone stores, all that stuff, love those guys. They're always
so that's how I got into sales, and then it trickled on from there. But I always knew I wanted to do something where I'm dealing with people. And so I ended up closing a couple deals for a company that I was with, a bigger wholesale organization. And I was like, you know what, man, like, they were taking 80% of the deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, even if I went on my own and I gave a dispo team 50% of the deal, I'm still making more money. Yeah. So I decided to start Meridian Equity Capital, and been on my own since January. And just to give you some news, I mean,
You're
I have it
crushing
up
it for
right
only
here.
being in it since
What was
January.
it?
You're crushing it for only being at it since January.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on my own since January. But just to give you a little insight of what we should be closing this month in July with you guys. If everything closed that's in the pipeline right now that's supposed to close, meaning we already have a buyer for it, it's with title, I should be closing 89,000 in gross transactions this month with you guys.
Yeah, I love it.
So, I mean, if I can find a way to just keep repeating the process and not focusing on the results, but as long as the process is intact, then I know that the results will follow.
And that's the trick, right? With is, once you're finding success, just keep doing it over and over again. And this is where I caution people, like it will get boring because it's the same thing. And human nature is let me change shit. let me let me try to reinvent the wheel. And I don't know, if you've ever seen that movie The Founder with Michael Keaton? He's
Yeah, I love it.
Dude, one of the best business movies ever. And the lesson there that I take from that is McDonald's, multi-billion-dollar a year company, worldwide. Fucking company's run by 16-year-olds. Like a 16-year-old can run that place. And there's that thing where he tapes out the layout of the store, and okay, we're gonna have the fries here. We're gonna there's just a system, and everybody does a thing, and we just do the same thing over and over again. Like nobody goes into McDonald's and goes, you know what?
Yeah.
What if we stack it like beef patty, fish fillet? Like they don't do that. We do the same thing over and over and over again. And this will become boring. All right. Closing your first couple deals is amazing. But next year, dude, when you're doing 10 a month, it just becomes the thing that you do all the time. And I know that sounds weird to people who haven't done deals. And I get it, first world problem, all that bullshit. I promise. But I always tell people that because I want to caution them not to start tinkering with the formula, right? Like, don't oh, I'm going to add in, I don't know, storage units, and I'm going to start doing weird shit,
Yeah, I'm calling garage owners now. Yeah.
Just keep printing money,
Yeah.
right? And that's, the reason for us and for our success. And people will ask, like, how did you do, how did you start? And, because when we started, I was half a broke, man, like half. Moved to Chattanooga, had $5,000, used some of that to buy a house, and had to go do the thing, right? Like I, 2 kids and 3 fat dogs, right? Like I had to do it, but we just got laser focused, and it's just laser focused. And when we ran Nationwide Property Liquidators, we only did wholesale. That was it. Like we didn't bring in novations or sub two. I had 9 acquisitions people. We just
narrow and focus and know what your business model is.
Yeah.
But that's the good news. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to close gross transactions about 89,000. But before this, David, I mean, and you can talk to Heather, there were maybe like 6 deals that we had a buyer for. We had great assignment fee for it. Maybe 15, 20,000. One was 35,000, and they didn't close for title reasons or whatever the case may be. But man, that was really disheartening. I'm like, you know what? The process is working though. I'm still signing deals. I'm getting them at great numbers. I'm finding buyers. They're just not closing for title issues that you don't find until, it pops up when you actually do a title search. So yeah, I focus more on the process more so than the results, because if the process is in line and I'm narrow-minded, like you said, I'm just doing wholesaling, which sometimes, I mean, I do pitch, creative finance to somebody if it's, I find out on the phone that they owe 100 and I can only offer 70. I'll be like, okay, well, look, let's just take over the debt and I'll give you 5,000 to walk away from it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. And that's, in our business and every business, right? You have to have a pipeline. You have to have a funnel. You have to be constantly filling the top. Again, another mistake that people make is and sometimes salespeople will do this, like they had this great month and they make all this money and then they coast kind of on their laurels, right? And, we call that the wholesaling cycle of death. And this was the very first presentation I ever made in front of a large event was this presentation. And it's so easy, right? Like there's so many hats that we all wear in wholesaling. You kind of talked a little bit, like I got a marketing hat, and then I have acquisitions, and then I'm marketing for dispo, and then I'm talking to buyers, and then I have title and transactions. And you just focus on the one you're in, and I'm only working about marketing, and then calls start coming in, and I start answering calls, And now I'm focused on those and I'm trying to get contracts and I get a couple contracts. And now I switch over to dispositions, which is a completely different business, right? If acquisitions is very empathy based, dispo is a fist fight, right? Like it's just a fist fight with buyers. And so different personality types. And now I'm doing that. And then I get a couple buyers and now I'm trying to close my deal. And then I get to the end, I got a check and I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. I'm like, oh my God, I got to crank up the acquisitions again,
Yeah.
So for me, the way that I solved that was I just went and got a partner, right? I had a partner and he handled acquisitions and I did the dispo. Same thing that we're doing, right? Because
and that's just to piggyback on what you said, David. Sorry to cut you off. Just to piggyback on what you said, you hit it right on the nail with getting a partner. So I knew once I went solo, I was like, okay, listen, I can either do both where I'm doing, three things. I'll be doing acquisitions, marketing, and dispo. And I narrowed it down and I said, hey, listen, I'm really good at acquisitions. I'm really going to focus on that in marketing, getting the deals to come in, creating that inward pipeline. And then I found you guys. Now you guys are my partners, essentially. I should put you guys on my letterhead now. Yeah. You guys do my dispo. You guys do my transaction coordination. And I truly believe without you guys, I wouldn't have been able to grow my business to where I'm closing 89,000 in gross assignment fees. So
yeah. Well, listen, we wouldn't have closed those without you going out and getting the deals.
Yeah.
And that's really what a partnership is, right? And that's to go back to Henry Ford's thing, right? Is we have a production line, and when I ran NPL, Nationwide Property Liquidators, every person from the person who did the texting to the person who did the acquisitions to the underwriting to the transactions to the dispo, like every person was the very best, right? And they did their job, and because of that, that deal could just flow right through.
Yeah.
Right? But
then you sold that business?
No, we actually shut it down when easy REI closings got so big. Again, it became a focus thing, right? Like we came back to the same principle of now I'm doing two different things, and we were, our time was very split, and it was painful because I love wholesaling, which is why we're back in dispo. But we knew that for a couple of years, or really we just had to make a decision. And which was the business that we had to pick one and nurture one. Because actually I did coaching. I had a large dispositions coaching business. I was traveling all over the country. We had the wholesale business, and then we had the transactions company, which was just 4Xing year over year over year. And we just had to pick one so that we could just had to pick one.
So now you guys more focused on the TC or the dispo part of the business?
What we realized is the two actually go together. And here's how it happened. Because I'm very like when we're locked in, we're locked in. This is the rule. This is the rule. We only do transactions. That's the only thing I talk about. It's what we do. It's what we do. It's what we do. And my sales team was actually here in the office, and they were. This is like in October, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? What are you hearing? When you're talking to people, you're having these calls, and they said, well, everybody thinks that we dispo deals. I'm like, well, why is that? And Trevor goes, well, dummy, because all you do is talk about wholesaling and dispo in your reels and on social media, because I love doing it. Like I love buyers. I would rather talk to 1,000 buyers than one seller. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, so do you think we could do that? I'm like, well, like we ran one of the biggest dispo houses in the country. Sure, we could. So, we talked about it internally and we'll go, oh, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And we opened it up to just our internal transaction clients, and we brought in 35 contracts in 10 days. I was like, oh, shit. And then that's when, after that, we brought back some of our other dispo people that we had here originally, and then we started opening it back up. So.
Yeah. So now it's about equal business focus-wise.
Well, the way that we look at it is a little bit different, where now instead of just selling somebody transactions, what we're selling them is the whole back half of the business, like we do for you. Right. So we realized that those two things naturally went together.
Yeah. And how many operators do you have like me where you guys handle everything after acquisitions?
Oh goodness, that's a Heather question. She's the data person. I don't know on that, to be honest. I mean, dozens. There's dozens of them. Yeah. And then we have lots of partnerships with a lot of the large lead gen companies, because their job is what? Let me teach you about what markets to be in and how to get leads. And then they partnered with us. They started coming to us in the fall and said, hey, if we're helping our clients get the best leads, can you sell the deals? Because they are like you. They just want to talk to sellers, which is really 80% of people out there. Most people do not like dispositions because it's way more just rough and tumble. And not that just some people don't want to do that, right? They don't want to fight and argue it. And because a buyer's job is to tell you your deal sucks every single day. They're going to tell you why. Because they're like us, right? They're trying to get the lowest price that they possibly can. So that just is always going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So
and the other part of that too is if I do dispositions, I have to stop doing acquisitions because I'm a solo operator. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if I stop doing acquisitions to do dispo, now I'm not keeping the pipeline full. So I'd rather just partner with you guys and you guys handle that for me.
Yeah, and you'll make more money at the end of the day because your pipeline never stops.
Exactly.
Right? And then so your options are do what I did, which I could partner with somebody local, which the first person I partnered with, it didn't go well. Not because he was a bad guy, just we had we were on two different paths. And he's done amazingly successful for himself. Or you partner with somebody who literally has done this for 17 years that you could trust and has the infrastructure and all of that. Yeah.
I got a question for you, David.
Yeah.
Just because I spent a lot of time coming up with it, what do you think of my company name, Meridian Equity Capital?
I like it. I mean, tell me what it means.
Well, when I was coming up with it, I wanted a name that kind of represented like direction, alignment, elevation, and stuff like that. And in geography, meridian, it's a line that runs north and south. So it's like kind of like a reference point, something that guides you. And that's how I see my company. A steady, reliable line that helps sellers and partners and investors move in the right direction. And eventually, of course, we're doing wholesaling as our main operation point right now. But eventually, I want to start holding some of these under the flag of Meridian because there's some good deals out there that, man, if I just kept for myself, I'm like, dude, some of these were even hotel deals. I'm like, man, if I just kept this, rented it out, like it was renting at 3%, like, wow, these are steals. So if I'm doing the legwork to bring the deals into other buyers, I'm sure that if I just kept some of these moving forward, I can cash flow and then, I'll get maybe 10 of these and I don't ever have to work again.
For sure. When I get around a bunch of people that were in the business in 2009 when I started here in Chattanooga, we all say the same thing. Dude, we wholesaled that house for to make $7,000 and now it's worth $400,000. What are we doing? Why didn't we keep every single house? We'd be gazillionaires. We'd own the whole, as I wholesaled 800-900 houses just in Chattanooga. I mean, every place I drove. What's today? When's Tuesday? Yeah, last night I had to drive. The highway was backed up, so I had to kind of drive through downtown. I'm like, did a house there? Did a house there? Did that house? There used to be a house there. You see that all the time. But like we had to make money. We were broke. We were kids.
Yeah, I gotta get capital. I'm working on getting capital.
You can't possibly do that, but you should keep some for sure. And for everybody who's watching this and hearing your story, which I do want to get back to kind of your athlete days. I'm fascinated with that. But I always say, do you need money today? Do you need money in 6 months, or do you need money when you retire? Right. And for most people, everybody needs money today. You've got to have some source of income to bring in cash today because you got bills, right? Your dogs need cookies, and I have 2 English bulldogs, and they like their cookies every day. So I tell them every morning, Daddy's going out to make you some cookie money. But once you have that unlocked, well, then maybe you want to do rehabs. Maybe you don't. Rehabs are a big pain in the butt. Every time I do one, I'm like, yeah, this is great. And I get halfway through it, and I'm like, I could have wholesaled 6 houses and made more money. What am I doing?
Yeah.
But then, there's the long-term holds, which again are great. But I'm also replacing air conditioning units and patching roofs and doing all that kind of stuff all the time. So, they've all got their pros and cons.
And is that why you would do the owner finance on some of those big deals, like you said, like some of the 5-plexes and bigger?
Yeah. I would only buy on owner finance, 100%. All day long, I could crank that business right back up. Yeah, it's I mean, you don't need a bank loan. I just had a foreclosure. My house in Florida, I lease auctioned it. It was a big mess. But nobody checked my credit. Nobody did any of that. I remember the day I did a deal that was $1 million. Owner finance, 27 doors. And I remember going to the title company, and I was like wearing jeans with holes in it. And I was driving my dad's old red pickup truck. And it kind of, as I'm driving over, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to sign for $1 million worth of properties with zero out of pocket, zero money down. I actually walked from closing with 10,000. And I'm like, I should be dressed better. I should be wearing something nicer.
You still have that property today?
Yeah.
Wow.
One of them. And they'll be paid off in the next 5 years. So all my
Wow.
properties, a couple of them I refinance, but almost all of them will be paid off in 5 years, and then I'm done.
Wow. So you're the cash flow king now.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I spend a lot of money. Like they were some older properties, so we're constantly
Doing some
water
capital
heaters,
spends.
toilets, air conditioner. I mean, fixing a sewer line. Like there's no. That's why I say on landlording, it's a job, right? And yeah, millions of dollars worth of properties, but like because of the way that I did it. For me, when I started buying those properties, I was 39. So I'm always let's look at, let's start with the end in mind. So I said, okay, if I buy these properties on a 30-year note, I'm going to be 70 when it's done. Like I'm going to be working till I'm 70. So I could have had a lower monthly payment and had more cash flow. But I'm like, you know what? I really wanted to retire when I was 50, but I couldn't make that happen. So because they were all owner financed, right, I was able to create whatever terms I wanted. So the longest ones I ever did were 20 because I was 40, and I'm like, well, I can retire at 60, right? And now I have $60,000-$70,000 a month coming in cash flow. And so, I structured all of my notes so that nothing went beyond that 20-year time period, so that basically I knew that by the time I hit this age, everything would be paid off. So what I'm saying is that I had very compressed or accelerated amortization. So my payments were higher because I had a scaled wholesale company. I was making money from wholesale, so I didn't need the cash flow every month. That wasn't my biggest driver. Right. My thing was, how do I pay these properties down just as quick as I can, so that I get to the end, so I can go sit on the beach with.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's a goal that I have in mind for sure.
Yeah, but you're younger than me, so maybe you want the monthly cash flow, right? But here's what I tell everybody, right? Is the goal is how quickly can you get to the end, right? Make whatever decisions, whether hard, painful, whatever. Like the end is the goal. So always, once you know where is it that I want to be, well, now I can work backwards, right? And I can do the math and look at the numbers and go, okay, well, this is what I need to do. If you want to retire in 5 years, great, go buy 10 properties. Right? If you want to pay them out with cash, then you need to wholesale, right? Like you can figure that system out.